Hey friends, it's Amber, back again with another Press Pause. If you missed it last week, Press Pause is something we started doing at youth group this year. It's a time in the middle of our night where we pause and we engage God and His Word in a way that's reflective and interactive. So I'm back with another Press Pause for you and your family to do, and today I want to talk about anxiety and worry, and we're going to engage that in this activity. And several weeks, maybe months ago at this point now, Pastor Jesse talked to us from Matthew 6, where Jesus says, don't worry about tomorrow, don't worry. And Miss Catherine and Word, if you will recall, did a fabulous song that tells us to not worry, to don't be anxious. And these last several weeks have been unusual ones, and I don't know about you, but I have been worrying, and I've felt anxious, and that command has come back to me, don't worry, don't be anxious. And yet I feel worried, and I feel anxious, and so I try harder not to worry and not to be anxious, and that doesn't work. And so then I just try not to think about it. And maybe if I just push those thoughts down, then I won't be worried and I won't feel anxious. And what I'm finding is that those thoughts don't go away. Instead, they come out in other ways. I get sad or I get angry, and it's just not working for me. And so I remembered a few weeks ago that God has this amazing way when He tells us not to do something. He almost always tells us what to do instead. And He's done that with worry. In two particular verses in the Bible that I want to talk about. One is Philippians 4:6. He says, don't worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. He says, don't worry about anything, pray about everything. And in 1 Peter 5:7, he says, cast your anxieties on God because He cares for you. See, give those things to God. Don't shove them down. Don't try to not think about them, but instead talk to me about them. God wants to hear the things that we're worried and anxious about because He loves us and He cares about us. So I want to invite you to do that this morning, to spend some time talking to God, asking Him to show you what is it that you're feeling worried about? What are you scared about? What maybe makes you feel kind of stressed out or anxious or worried right now? Ask God to reveal those things. Maybe you've been shoving them down like I was, trying not to think about them. But pause for a minute and let those things come up. And then I want you to take a little piece of paper. You want it to be square. This is about 4 by 4 inches, which is a good size. Each person in your family can get a square like this. If you feel like you have a lot, you can take a couple squares. And then just spend a few moments as God brings things to mind, writing them down. You could write down just a word or a phrase. Kids, you can just draw a picture of something that maybe you feel worried about. If you want to write out an actual prayer telling God what you're worried about, you can do that. And then once you've done that, you're going to take your square and you're going to bring the corners and fold them into the middle, making kind of an envelope. Kind of tucking them away, maybe like you have been doing in your heart, kind of taking those things and shoving them down inside a little bit, keeping them in. And then you and your family need to find some place that has some water. You can fill a sink, you can fill a big bowl. If you have a lot of these, maybe your bathtub, put a couple inches of water in there. And you're going to actually literally cast those cares upon the waters. You're going to give them to God in a physical way. And as you're doing that, make that a time of prayer to say, God, I want to really give you the things that I'm worried about. Here's what's bothering me. And so you're going to actually cast those things, on the water, and what you'll see happen is they're going to open up, and let that be a visual picture that those things that you've buried, those worries that you're carrying, you can open those up to God, and He hears those. He loves you. He wants you to bring those to Him. He cares about the things that you've been worried about. So take some time to do that, and then afterwards, as a family, if you want to, maybe you might want to share what you wrote down with each other, and just have some time kind of letting some of those things out and expressing them to God and to each other. And I hope that that's encouraging to you to have this opportunity to remember that God wants to hear what's on your heart because He loves you and He cares about you.